Hey there guys, in today's video I'm going to be talking about browse. More specifically, my top 5 favorite picks for browse items to give to companion parrots. So if that is something you guys are interested, you want to make sure to stick around because that's going to be coming up right after this. Hey there guys, this is Jack over at Hi Red Bird, where I am tirelessly working to find new ways to make the keeping of exotic animals and pets more exciting, more affordable, and ultimately more enjoyable. And so for today's video, I wanted to show off my very special co-host. Today we have Grayson. He is an umbrella cockatoo. Hey Grayson, can you wave to everyone? Can you wave? Hi! Hi! Awesome. I wanted a bird to show you guys just how exciting these items can be. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about my top 5 favorite picks for browse items. Now, browse is just a cutting of edible plants. And if you guys aren't familiar with why you should be using browse as part of your enrichment schedule, I did a video on that. So that's going to be on a link somewhere right up there. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to end up going, but you can go ahead and click that. That's going to let you know exactly what browse is, what your animals can benefit from it, and why you should be feeding it out. But for the sake of simplicity, browse is just going to be cuttings of edible plants. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about plants that would most likely be in your landscape. I'm not going to be talking about house plants, because house plants for birds is going to have a lot more components that you have to think about. When you're providing houseplants for a bird, you have to make sure that the soil is bird safe, that the pots are bird safe. So there's a lot more variables in the air. With cuttings of the plants, you can go out into your yard, you can cut them back, and you can give that to your bird. Now there are a couple accommodations you want to make with browse. First one is you want to make sure that the plant is going to be non-toxic for your particular animal. Now all of these plants that I'm going to use today, I have used for a wide variety of parrot species, with no ill effects, but I always encourage you guys to go ahead, research for your particular species, make sure that is something that is not going to be toxic for the animal that you are feeding it to. Not only do you want to check that the plant itself is non-toxic, but you want to research and look and see, because some plants are going to have varying levels of toxicity for their bark, for their leaves, for their fruits if they're available, so you want to make sure you look into that as well. The second thing you want to check, you want to make sure that your browse is not going to be physically dangerous. You don't want to have any sharp, I know that's really important, huh? You don't want to have any sharp branches or anything that your bird could impale itself or hurt itself on. You don't want branches that are going to be growing very, very close together that your bird could potentially get a foot or a leg band stuck in. So you want to make sure you account for that as well. And the third most important thing you want to make sure you are doing with your browse, you want to make sure that it is coming from an area that has not been treated with pesticides or insecticides, anything that could have a residual toxicity for your bird. So as long as you can account for that, there are a wide variety of plants that you can use in providing browse for your birds. So let's go ahead and jump into the list. All right, guys, so my number 5 pick for browse for your companion parrots is going to be sycamore. I really enjoy sycamore because they have very sturdy leaves. They can actually dry out very well too. So you can give this to your bird as something to chew on when it is live and fresh, but you can also take sycamore leaves, you can string them up on a piece of leather or a kebab, let them dry out, and it will give you a natural shreddable material for months. Sycamore leaves are very large, so you could wrap items in them as well. It gives you a lot of variety. And sycamore branches are a wonderful option if you are wanting to put in natural wood perches. Again, if you've never done that before, I just did a video on how to make branches out of natural woods. So again, I'll put the tag to that somewhere up there. I'm not sure exactly where it'll go, but it is a great selection for that. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind with sycamore, it is a tree. It is going to get pretty big, and it is something you need to account for in your landscape. This is not the kind of plant that is going to do well in a pot or a container. It really does want to be in the landscape, but sycamore does grow incredibly fast. So especially if you are wanting something to give your animal on a regular basis, sycamore is a great option. And as you can see, Grayson is fairly interested in it. I know. All right, so our number 5 selection is going to be sycamore. Now, my number 4 selection is going to be another fairly large plant, and that is going to be bamboo. It is a absolute monster of a plant. If you get a variety of bamboo, first of all, you want to make sure that you are allowed to have bamboo in your area, because there are certain areas where bamboo is not allowed because it does grow rampantly, or it's not allowed to be grown in the landscape. It has to be grown in a pot. Whatever your options, I recommend you go with a clumping form of bamboo. It's going to be much easier to control. Bamboo will also spread via runners, and you will be dealing with bamboo for the rest of time if you go with that option. Now, bamboo grows really, really densely, so it is a wonderful option for birds that love to shred things. Hey, Grayson, do you want to see about this? Yes, now you can see, compared to the sycamore, there is a lot more that he can do. He can go through on every single leaf, rip them all off. That's going to take him a lot longer. Another great thing about bamboo is because it has so many small branches all throughout there, you can trim back to give you little sections that you could then put slices of banana, slices of apple. So not only do you have something that an animal can destroy, but you are also giving your animal the option to use browse as a foraging toy. So that is a great way to use it. Although, of course, you can see with Grayson right now, this is a very large piece of bamboo. He is interested in it, but a little bit overwhelmed. So you definitely want to do smaller sections, especially until your animal is used to it, because it would be very, very easy to completely overrun your animal's cage with bamboo, so you don't want to startle them. But it is a good plant and a good shreddable browse item. Now, my third favorite browse item, I actually don't have the plant to show you guys right now because chickens just got into it and completely destroyed it. And that is going to be ginger. Now, you can go to a garden center and get a lot of decorative varieties of ginger. There are a lot with variegated leaves. You can get them where they have really, really impressive flowers, a good fragrance, a lot of color. And so it'll look great in your landscape, but it'll also be usable for your animals. But you can also go to the grocery store and pick up a piece of ginger root. Now, this is not actually a root. This is a rhizome, and this isn't going to be a lesson on plants, or rather the botanical names of plants, but rather all you need to know with this being a rhizome, this has the ability to grow both roots and leaves. So that means you can grow a whole new ginger plant just from this. So I can take pieces of ginger like this, I'll put them in a small tray with a ½ inch of water or so, not enough to completely cover it, just to get the very bottom of it wet. And within a few days, you will see green shoots coming up from that. A few days after that, you'll start to see roots developing on the underside. You can go ahead, plant that in a pot. Obviously, you want the roots facing down, the green parts facing up, and pretty soon that will grow into a nice ginger plant that you can use for your animals. Now, that ginger isn't going to be as aesthetically pleasing. Ginger that you get from the grocery store, it's not going to have very impressive flowers. It's not going to have very interesting leaves. They're going to be pretty much plain green. But your birds really will enjoy playing with them and interacting with them. Now, my number 2 selection for browse for a companion parrot has a lot of different uses, and that is going to be willow. Willow here is an absolutely wonderful plant. Let's see if Grayson's going to be interested in this one after his stretch. Not so much. Well, willow does have a lot of wonderful uses. Willow, like all the other plants we've listed before, can just be a shreddable item. It does have very, very flexible branches, so you can also mount willow inside your cage to give your bird something really flexible and movable that they can perch on. That's going to give them the opportunity to work some different muscle groups. But one of the best things you'll find about willow, willow is a natural anti-inflammatory. So if you have a bird that's a little bit older, maybe they are starting to be a little bit slower or have a little bit of joint pain, yeah, if they just take a little bit longer to stretch in the morning, you might want to consider giving them things like willow to sort of help with their movement and mobility. Now, you do want to keep in mind that willow works by functioning as a blood thinner. So if you have an animal that's just a little bit stiff, moving around a little difficult, you can give them things like willow. If you have an animal that has a cut or an open wound, you don't want to give them willow because, again, it is a blood thinner. It would promote more bleeding. But willow is a very, very useful plant. And there we go. See, he doesn't want to play with it on camera. But again, they'll go through, take every single leaf, peel it off. All right, guys, now my #1 selection for browse for companion parrots. This is actually one of my #1 selections for browse for just about any animal. This is safe for so many animals and useful in so many ways, and that is going to be mulberry. Now, I will point out mulberry does want to grow to be a small tree, but mulberry and willow before it both can be grown in containers and do take well to shaping and pruning to be kept as smaller trees or even moderate-sized shrubs, so they are manageable that way. Willow has wonderful leaves. Most birds love absolutely destroying them. A lot of birds will like eating the leaves as well, so you can get a little bit of nutritional enrichment that way. Now, mulberry does fruit. It produces mulberries. Birds absolutely love them. So if you trim these branches at the right time of year, not only are you providing browse, but you are providing a foraging opportunity with some natural fruit as well. Mulberry is very useful for natural wood perches, and pretty much every part of mulberry is useful and enjoyable by birds. So for a lot of the other things we've seen, they'll play with the leaves. Once the leaves are spent, you want to go ahead and remove it. With something like mulberry, your bird will be working for quite a while because birds will remove all the leaves, but then they will also go through and they will strip all of the bark off of the mulberry. So for all of those reasons, mulberry is one of my absolute favorite items to give companion parrots as a source of browse enrichment. All right, guys, now I do have a couple of honorable mentions for browse, but they are going to have some drawbacks. So with all of the browse that I've listed, both the browse that's on my top 5 list and these honorable mentions, you want to think about your particular bird and your particular scenario, because some of these items might be better for your birds and some of the ones that I listed before may not work as well. The first honorable mention I'm going to give you guys is going to be banana. Banana is a great plant. A lot of birds really enjoy playing with it. But the drawbacks to banana are, one, it can grow pretty large. There are some dwarf varieties, but even the dwarf varieties of banana get to be a pretty decent size. Banana is also a tropical plant, so if you live anywhere where it gets even remotely cold, your banana plant will die back. Now, if it's moderately cold but doesn't freeze through all the way, that banana tree will grow back, but it just won't be aesthetically pleasing at that time. And another thing to keep in mind with banana, if you are trimming banana, the juice when you cut into a banana is very pigmented. It will actually stain your clothes, so they will have like a rusty reddish brown. It almost will look like blood stains on your clothing. So those are all things you want to keep in mind with banana. Another option for an edible plant that is a great source of browse is going to be hackberry. Hackberry is a great source of browse. Many birds will like destroying it. But again, remember, hackberry is a tree, so you do have to accommodate that in your landscape. It is not the strongest tree. It's actually fairly brittle. So if you're in an area that is susceptible to dust storms or anything like that, or sorry, windstorms or anything like that, you do run the risk of those branches coming down. And of course, one of the things with hackberry, it is not as long lasting once you cut it. Within about 24 hours, those leaves will turn black and they will be useless. A lot of these other forms of browse will last a little bit longer, but hackberry is certainly an option in your area. And probably the third option I would put as a contender would be fig. A lot of birds really like fig. I've had birds get fig with minimal complications, but I've also had some birds try to chew on fig and have some stomach upset. The sap on fig can be very caustic. And in fact, part of why I don't like growing it, my skin is a little bit susceptible to it, so I will get a bit of a rash and even some hives from fig. Now, figs themselves, the plant, or the fruit, birds will absolutely love, but the plant itself, a lot of birds will be fine with it, but there is a chance that your bird would not be fine with it. And for me, the final nail in the coffin, if you are growing figs in the landscape, there are a few plants that I have seen that attract rodent activity as much as figs. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. For those of us who have birds, rodents are something we want to keep well at bay. So fig just doesn't work out for me in that situation, but it might work out for you. So I definitely encourage you, if any of those plants are something you're interested in, go ahead and research them a little bit more, and they may work out for your application. But those are my top 5 choices for browse plants for a companion parrot. I hope that has given you guys some ideas on some new ways that you can provide enrichment for your companion animals. I do want to thank you guys for watching this video. I am going to ask you guys, if you have any of those plants in your landscape that you are planning on using as browse, go ahead and let us know in the comment section down below. It'd be great to see how many people are growing different kinds of plants already as a form of browse. If you like this video, I encourage you to hit the thumbs up button. You can subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this kind of information. And as always, I do want to thank you guys for watching this video. But in the meantime, I'm going to have to go ahead and head out because I've got some cages to clean. So I will talk to you guys later. All right, thanks. Bye.